Hello everybody and welcome back to the return of the Siege Mailbox. This is a video series where you the viewer comment your Siege related questions and topic discussions, and there's a chance we'll talk about it in the next video. Now I know the uploads of this have been all over the place, but I can assure you we are going back to making at least one of these a week, maybe even more. So drop your questions about Rainbow Six Siege in the comment section below. There's no such thing as a stupid question. Hit the like button and let's jump straight into this video. So this first one is going to be from Donuts, and they ask, should there be a hard breach on defense, even a small version as a primary gadget? So what you're asking is, should there ever be a defender in this game that can manipulate hard breach walls for the advantage of the defensive team? And from a surface level, I think that is a cool idea. I think that would fit in the realm of Rainbow Six Siege, and this game is all about map manipulation. I can't necessarily think of a concept off the top of my head of how we could have a defender that sort of is capable of making holes in hard breaches. You can maybe make a defensive version of Maverick, but in turn the hole then works against you, the same way as when you play Maverick, there's a chance that the enemies will use that against you as well. But that does sound very strong. Now, technically we do have an operator in the game who sort of has a defensive hard breaching device and can use this to make holes in reinforced walls, and that is Mirror. Placing a mirror window on the wall will make a hole there, and of course if you open up that mirror window, you can shoot through that hole. I know it's not the primary usage, but by all means this is technically a hard breach on defense. And for a lot of people, the idea of a mirror window being open isn't necessarily a best thing in the world. That typically means that the attackers have countered you and you can no longer use that mirror window. However, more and more recently, it has become more common that people are opening their own mirror windows even in the prep phase, and then using the hole which it leaves as a means to counter a hard breacher from pushing the wall. This is due to the fact that having a hole in the middle of a double reinforced wall, for example, is going to make it really hard for a thermite to get up close and place his thermite charge, because you can just throw an impact grenade to destroy it, or you could even nitro cell him through the hole itself. And this isn't a way of throwing with mirror, you know, people aren't just doing this to troll. This is genuinely a viable strat which you'll see even in the highest levels of play in this game. So I think this unusual usage of mirror's windows actually shows that there could be a place in this game for a defender with a hard breach charge. Maybe Ubisoft are in a happy position right now where they're sort of like, well, if you want to have a sort of defending hard breacher, just use mirror and play it like this. Or they could double down on the way that certain people like to play mirror in this way and actually make a dedicated operator of it with their own unique twist. I've not really got my thinking cap on right now and can think of the best way they could do this, but if you have any ideas in your mind about how Ubisoft could make a unique hard breacher on defense in a way that would be used to benefit the defenders but could also then be exploited by the attackers as well, then definitely drop that in the comment section below. Maybe you can make it that the reinforcement stops or opens at a certain level, maybe in a way with like how you can toggle Hibana's pellets, and then you can make your own holes there and use that to then throw nitro cells. But the flip turn there is then you're just giving a hole for the attacking team to also throw utility, so bandit tricking, for example, would be impossible. But yeah, with a game like Rainbow Six Siege where there's so many scenarios and so many different ways you can exploit stuff in this game, I definitely think there could be a place for a hard breacher on defense if done correctly. The next one is by Young Fly, and they ask, should the Gonne-6 become a secondary gadget? I definitely think now is a very good time to be asking this question. If you're not aware, the Gonne-6 is a gun which shoots a single impact round and only has one, so if you miss, that's it, or if you use it, you've got none left. And the big thing here is that since it is actually a secondary weapon and not a secondary gadget, it will replace your slot for your pistol or your pocket shotgun. So you don't really have a secondary weapon to fall back on when you are in a gunfight. But then obviously the benefit you're getting here is the fact that the Gonne-6 is akin to an impact round from Zofia, for example. So you can counter a lot of utility with it. So do I necessarily think they should turn it into a secondary gadget? I don't really think so. I mean, I wouldn't be against it. I don't think it'd be the end of the world if they did do that. But I think right now there's a lot more we can first do to the Gonne-6 before potentially making it a gadget instead of a weapon. The first thing would just be looking at the pool of attackers which have the Gonne-6 I think right now a lot of the attackers which have it are a bit out of the meta, except from like Dokkaebi, for example. I would love to see some operators maybe such as Osa having it, or maybe even Ram. I do think the current pool of operators that have the Gonne-6 isn't as strong as it could be. But I think another thing we can start to look into right now is maybe experimenting with putting the Gonne-6 on defense. And that would be one of the benefits of keeping it a weapon compared to a secondary gadget, because secondary gadgets are exclusive to their sides. The Gonne-6 technically is currently exclusive to attack, but that's never been a stated rule. By all means, they have the capabilities to give the defenders a Gonne-6. And this would be great for when you're playing against an Osa or a Raura. Yes, it would then just pretty much be the same as an impact grenade, but impact grenades can still be used to make holes in the walls and stuff like that. A Gonne-6 wouldn't be able to make a rotate. I still do think that both of them would have their space. Its usage definitely wouldn't be as impactful as it would be on attack, but I think that the Gonne-6 definitely can go to more attackers currently. I don't think at its current point in time it should become a secondary gadget, but I do think more can come to it. We did dabble with one of the ideas in one of these episodes of maybe giving it a second round. I mean, if you go into the shooting range, you actually can see there is a reload animation for it, despite us never needing to reload it because we've only ever had one round in it. But then again, if you give the Gonne-6 2 rounds, that's very strong. The Gonne-6 having 2 impact rounds also pretty much then would negate the fact to ever bring a Zofia, because she also has 2 impact rounds. So basically you're getting a pocket Zofia there. Could we then buff Zofia? I don't know. That's a discussion for its own. But yeah, what do you think they should do to the Gonne-6? Let me know in the comments. This next one is by Christopher Sheldon, and he says, I think with Rainbow Six Siege now being free to play or free access, it will make Ubisoft release more characters per season like they did back in year 1, 2, and 3. I don't think they will. I think Ubisoft are perfectly happy with the system and stride they have going right now, with the 2 brand new ops and the 2 remasters they're doing every year. It seems like the workload they have of the developers working on the remasters and the developers working on the new ops is something they are happy with. It seems that they are getting their deadlines done very well with this, with quite a lot of polish for the most part, and the quality of the operators are typically very good. They have stated that an operator like Scopos could have never happened if they didn't have the time to work on one operator a season. It was something like an operator like Scopos was conceived of back in like year 4 or something like that, but they simply didn't have the time and resources to do that. Now that they can focus on remasters and single ops per season, it allowed for operators like Scopos. I've not seen what the Year 10 Season 3 operator is, but based on the fact of how they've been hyping it up, it seems like this is going to be another very complex gadget from a game development side. So again, this is something which has benefited from the current release cycle. I do come from an era of Siege where we were getting 2 operators a season, and don't get me wrong, I loved it, but I do think a lot of the ops we are getting right now have a lot more depth than some of those ops. And if in the grand scheme of things it leads to a smoother work cycle for the dev team and better consistency, I'm currently okay with the current release cycle. I don't think it's terrible. I know some people would probably like more ops per season or like less remasters per year, and I think that's perfectly valid criticism and perfectly valid wants, but I'm kind of satisfied with the ops we are getting. I would just like to see more maps, honestly. I care more about maps than operators personally, and it does seem like as we're getting more remasters and modernizations, we're getting a map rework in season 4, and hopefully we're going to be getting some new maps very soon. I honestly think the current cycle is pretty fine. Something that not really many people talk about as well is when you release 2 ops per season, you do risk sort of some of them being redundant or maybe not getting the same focus. I mean, look at Goyo and Clash. They've both been remastered now. Same with Blackbeard as well. And probably more ops are going to get a remaster as well. So an argument can be made with quality over quantity. I know sometimes that doesn't seem like that, like with Operation New Blood. But I think they proved themselves from a remaster standpoint with Blackbeard. I think that was very impressive. That was an entirely new gadget. Clash was maybe a bit more close to home for her gadget, but it was still very good, and I like what they've done with Clash. And Deimos, Scopos, and Raura have all been pretty cool from a gadget standpoint as well. So yeah, I don't think they're going to do it. There's nothing wrong with you wanting more. I just think the current system's doing all right. This next one is by AK Aiden, and they ask, here's a Siege Mailbox worthy question. With the first ever Paragon Elite skin for Valkyrie now released, does this mean legendary Elite skin bundles like the recent Clash Elite skin are now becoming a thing of the past? Now, correct me if Ubisoft have already made a public statement about this, but I don't think they will. One of the big things you have to keep in mind here is that the Paragon skins are significantly more expensive than an Elite skin. There is a big chunk of the community who who cannot afford a Paragon skin but can afford an Elite skin. If Ubisoft was just to focus all their efforts on the Paragon, you're going to be just getting rid of that audience who are happily paying for the other product. It's best for them to keep the two worlds existing. And another thing why they probably wouldn't stop this as well is turnover time. Elite skins take some time to make, don't get me wrong, but Paragon skins also have weapon skins which have unique inspect animations, unique reloading, animated player cards, even animated gadget skins. There is more which goes into a Paragon skin. This then means longer development time for these skins and then less skins overall if they're spending more time on these ones. So if they were to completely cut off standard Elite skins, they'd then be making less because of how long it takes to make a Paragon, and then they'd also probably be getting less sales as well, since not everyone is on board with buying a skin for 5,000 R6 credits. So if Ubisoft have released an official answer for this, I've not seen it, but it wouldn't really make any sense for them to drop the standard Elite skins at this time or ever. I hope they don't do it anyway. I like my Clash skin. I don't think that needs to be a Paragon. I think the Valkyrie one is cool as well, but I like the Clash Elite. I like it for how it is, and I don't want it to change. But no, by all means, that is a valid question, and thank you so much for asking it. This next one is by Silver Zeus, and they ask, what's your thoughts on a Sens rework, a Tachanka rework, and giving Jager better secondary gadgets? Right, let me answer these in order. Firstly, Sens doesn't need a rework. The change which came to them a few seasons ago was very good, and I think Sens is actually in a great position right now, and they don't need touched. Tachanka also doesn't need a rework. His gadget and the concept of it is very good in game. The execution just isn't very well. Just simply improve how long it takes to reload the gadget, or just remove the reload completely, and Tachanka's in a much better state. The main thing which holds Tachanka back is the reload time on that Shamika launcher. Until they address that, he's gonna be kind of mid, but he doesn't need a full rework. I would actually like them to do an impact and bounce option like they have with Grim. And finally, does Jager need better secondary gadgets? I mean, maybe. I think it'd be cool to maybe dabble with an impact nade or even a nitro cell on Jager. I think nitro cell Jager would actually be really cool. I'd like to see that. This next one is by one of my Twitch mods, Monty, and they ask, when's that Nokk update? Now, I have absolutely no idea what you're referring to by that Nokk update. If it's the one where she takes her shoes off and shows her toes, that one's coming soon. But if you're referring to the one which was heavily talked about years ago, where Nokk would be able to bypass certain gadgets like Capcan traps or nitro cells, for example, Ubisoft completely scrapped that, and they said that they weren't moving forward with that. I think Nokk was in a weird situation where they didn't know which side they wanted to lean her, whether that was anti-gadget or anti sort of visual and observation. They leaned more into the observation, the anti-observation side of her gadget, especially when they buffed her, where her gadget doesn't deplete unless she is doing an action which causes her to glitch. And in the grand scheme of things, yes, it would kind of suck if Nokk could just rush through every gadget and there wouldn't be any way to counter her, because then she'd technically just become a rushing operator, which isn't the goal of Nokk. She's meant to be stealthy. I don't think Nokk is in a bad spot. I actually think she's in a good spot. Again, I do think more can come to her, but this is definitely, where she needs to be. She should be focused more on observation. So I don't see a future where she's going to bypass Capcan traps, for example. JCB Got Dumpy asked, do you think this game needs K-bullets? Which basically is like armor piercing rounds. No, I don't think there's a scenario where armor piercing rounds in this game is going to be necessarily beneficial in any way, even though we have Rook who does supply armor to the defending team. In the grand scheme of things, when you still got one shot headshot and like for the most part of all the health advantages it grants, I don't think like armor piercing rounds is something that like has to be added. And of course there then have to be a downside for it, because if you're running armor piercing rounds, why not just, you know, run that all the time? Like, what is the trade-off compared to normal bullets? And Siege just isn't a game that needs that. It doesn't play into much of the gameplay, and unless they completely rework armor and how they do absolutely everything, then like, yeah, maybe, but that just doesn't sound like Siege. There is no scenario, I think, where armor piercing rounds is going to be something which is like necessary for this game. It could be like a cool passive. I don't know, like maybe Deimos's revolver is more stronger against Rook's armor, like more of like an operator focused passive or like a guns focused passive, then yeah, but that just comes down to the weapons balancing anyway. But like as an actual like option where you can toggle per weapon, it just doesn't fit in Siege. I'm going to sort of group these two by Righteous Calamity YT and Firefox Fly 91 because they're quite similar. But basically, one of them's asking, is there any maps which are not in the ranked pool that could be reworked and added to it? And the other one is asking, when do you think we'll see Hereford base again? Because my first answer to that is going to be, I think Hereford base itself is probably going to get a rework, and that is when we're going to see it again, is when they most likely rework it, because in the lore, it's been destroyed. In game, it's been removed. Ubisoft now have the perfect opportunity to build a brand new Hereford base 2.0 in the ruins of the old Hereford base, and this can be less of an old SAS training house and more of a brand new, modern, but still sort of classy style rainbow base of operations. Even Nighthaven could help with this as well and be contracted into help building this. So we're going to be getting like Rainbow's version of Nighthaven Labs, basically. So I think because they have removed it from the game and it's such a big part of the narrative, it makes sense for it to be a new map in the future. At that point, I don't even think it would be a rework. I think it would just be a new map in the same location, if that makes sense. And it could be called like Hereford HQ or Rainbow HQ or something like that. And it's just like this brand new base of operations in the remnants of Hereford base. So yeah, I think that's when we'll probably see Hereford again if they do that. And I also think that we'll also be getting Hereford regardless back in the game at some point. Another map I think that could be reworked and put into the rank pool is Fortress. I think the current version of Fortress isn't even that bad. I used to play the game when that was in ranked, and I liked it. I would happily play it. I thought the map was fine. I was kind of sad when they removed it from the ranked pool. I genuinely did not mind that map at all. So maybe with that getting a bit of love, maybe a bit of a little touch up, it would be a great map for the ranked pool as well. I would also like to see House maybe just back to how it used to be in a way and get a little bit of its personality back. I kind of think they ruined that map with the rework they done, so I'd like to see it maybe go back to just being a bit of a smaller house and maybe even seeing that in the pool. And you know what, whilst we're here, they should add Favela back to the rank pool, man. Like, just as it currently is, that map's fine. People all react about that map. Favela was good. I don't care what people say. But yeah, even if they could find a way to improve tower, like I think if they just add more linear pushes to tower, the map itself could work, because a lot of the bomb sites weren't actually that terrible. It just comes to how vertical everything is. But then I guess you sort of remove some of the map's identity. But how much identity does that map have if everyone hates it? But I think from a most likely standpoint, it's either going to be Hereford or Fortress, which are like the next in line to be modernized and reworked. And I think I'll end this mailbox with this question by a licensed idiot saying, do you think Solis will ever have changes reverted or at least buffed? I think we can all agree that she's underwhelming right now, especially with how strong she was on launch. So my consensus on Solis is that I think that they over-nerfed her. I think she needed a nerf. I would have liked it they just started with removing her from the prep phase, but they went too far and she has fallen off and she's actively in a bit of a bad spot right now. And they've not really done anything to change that. To me, the lack of balancing, which has went into Solis here after they initially done this big nerf, implies that she may be one of the remasters, I think, that will probably come in year 11, assuming they keep to the same release schedule they've been doing for the past 2 years now, with 2 new ops and 2 remasters. I think the idea of Solis's gadget is cool, but I guess it's shown that if you put it in the current state, it's sort of too weak, and if you put it in the old state, it's too strong, which is the issue you had with Blackbeard and you sort of had with Clash. So when you look at Solis's standing in the game and how she sort of splits it, it can be said that she deserves a remaster at this point, I think. And just another look at her gadget overall as a defending alternative to IQ. I would not be surprised if instead of just buffing her or trying to rebalance her again, they just take her gadget back to the drawing board. But yeah, this is going to do it for this episode of the Siege Mailbox. Be sure to post your questions for the next one in the comment section below, as well as joining my Discord server. We have their own channel for that on there. If you want to ask Siege Mailbox related questions, you can find it there. Drop a like on this video if you did enjoy, sub if you're new. Catch you on the next video. I love you all. Stay safe. Have a good one.